today we are joined by Will and Keith from 8x8. 8x8 are a leading provider of unified communications, and that is the topic of today's discussion. So I think the best place to start is with Keith. What do we mean by the term unified communications?
So unified communications, that term's been around for a hell of a long time. If we go back to when I started in this industry, we were drilling boxes onto walls and plugging desk phones onto people's environments. It's basically a simple way to combine all of the communication tools that you've got on your desk and put into a single pane of glass. So desk phone's dead. We now put everything on your mobile, your laptop, or your iPad device and take it with you.
Perfect. And so obviously agility is probably a key benefit. Is there any other benefits that unified communications can sort of provide?
I think it's when you start looking at the integration stack and what people live in on a daily basis. So if your role is to live inside a CRM application like Salesforce, rather than having a separate tool that pops up for your communications, we truly do unified. So embedding the UC client directly into the tool that you're using, like a Salesforce, whether you're front of house or you're back end in the contact center, just trying to streamline people's efficiencies in the roles and just give them those marginal minutes that they can gain back every day.
Yeah. And I think from a management point of view as well, it brings everything, as Keith says, under one pane of glass. So, from a management standpoint, it makes that so much simpler, making that, that employee experience more enjoyable, more productive, and as a result, making that customer experience far more productive as well.
So it's all about visibility, basically, is obviously a key aspect of it. Is there any industries that use it more than others, or is it quite generic?
Yeah, I think we're seeing now, and particularly accelerated in today. All sectors are looking to it. So typically when when you start out as unified communications, I guess one which sticks out for me is the recruitment industry. They were very keen to to make sure they have inclusive minutes, visibility, and live inside that CRM. Whereas now we're seeing everything from logistics and now going into financial sectors. So we're seeing a wide vast of different sectors getting into unified communications and making sure they're harnessing those benefits.
Agree. And I think the public sector side for us is just absolutely skyrocketing at the moment. And when your enterprise organizations and your public sector organizations start adopting cloud at the rate that we're seeing it, that proves to the rest of the market that it is fit for purpose for nearly anyone. Because your government sector is very strict around security and compliance and reliability, et cetera, et cetera. And when those people are taking public money to be spent on tools, that there's justified value in it.
Okay, great. I guess it's been accelerated into the new industries by the shift to remote working that we've all kind of been forced into recently for obvious reasons. I won't use the C word, but I think we all know what we're talking about there.
I completely agree with that. I mean, if you've ever heard my boss, John Delozier, our global channel chief, talk, he keeps saying that this is the golden age of communications for all the wrong reasons. And it's absolutely true. And people ask him, they ask me, they ask our sales leaders, what did 8x8 do when the pandemic hit? Like, what knobs did you turn? What stuff did you have to move around? And nothing. We picked up our laptops and we went home, right? So I think remote working is here to stay. I think the tools are being adopted a hell of a lot quicker in the market. People got to remote working as fast as they could with their current providers. And now they're going back and starting to re-vet, like, is it secure? Is it compliant? Can I make sure my people are actually still working from home? So what does the analytics tools look like? And how do we make them as productive as they were at home as they are in the office? And then the social side of it. I mean, Johnny, we've never met face to face, right? And you guys are a valued partner in our community. How strange is that world where channel partners can't sit in front of the vendors anymore? So we have to keep that in mind with the end user applications, thinking, how do we keep them engaged and how do we keep them adopting the tools that are in front of them?
Yeah, I think that's a key point. I think I was going to ask you how you see it sort of progressing in the future. I think in the first few months when the pandemic first hit, everyone shifted to remote work and try to make it work effectively. But now I think it's a case of making it thrive rather than just survival. So how do you see sort of unified communications? I guess with the 8x8 solution, nothing really changes with what you guys can provide in terms of providing the agility and the visibility from obviously agile places.
Exactly. I think what's changed is how businesses approach the tools that they're taking. take a new organization starting up. After you've done all the legal bits of registering your company and your website, you went looking for real estate, right? Like, where are we going to physically put our people? Nowadays, it's more of having a look at what is our communications platform going to be? How are we going to keep people engaged? Is it going to interact with all of the tools that we bring into market? Because as much as I want the world to go back to normal, so that I can go to our office in London if we need to, and we can sit in front of each other and have a beer, etc., I think a new normal precedent is going to be set. I think remote working is going to become a hell of a lot higher on everyone's priority when they're looking for new roles. And also being able to source talent easier, right? It used to be if you wanted talent, you went into the city for financial because that's where all of them live. Now it's more around, okay, can we get people from the north of the country to come in and not having to pay the ridiculous salaries because they need to live in the city? So I think the world's been turned on its head, and I don't think there's any going back to the old anymore.
I think for me, one of the biggest factors coming into UCAS kind of 6 years ago, one of the big selling points for us was, that agile working and having, multiple offices across the country. And one of the sales to customers was essentially, how much does it cost per bill to travel from Birmingham to London for 2 meetings twice a week? Whereas he can come on and, that was the real foundation of it. So, but now, very much accelerated. So we've had to adopt it, kind of adapt or die, as they say. And we're definitely seeing the industry across the globe, everyone having to, move to that remote working and making sure, their infrastructure is set up for it as well.
I think from what we've kind of seen, I think you touched on there, it's going to be a hybrid sort of model. I think people, obviously, hopefully, when the pandemic does subside, having the remote working option as well as having an office that people can go to and work from. So having that, the versatility of an office structure whilst having the same access to the same tools and communications, tools at home as well.
But Johnny, I think what you guys are doing incredibly well is you're not looking at just from the unified communications front or the contact sense front. You're looking at all the value adds that wrap around that service. I mean, security is massive inside your organization, right? Mm-hmm. Making sure the endpoint is not secure, because the endpoint is people's personal devices. It's mobiles, it's iPads, it's laptops. They can log in from anywhere. So the partners that are doing incredibly well in this industry at the moment are the guys that are wrapping professional services. They're wrapping security and connectivity and unified communications and all of the other value-added items that have to sit on the outside of people's communications platforms anymore. Security is no longer a nice to have, it's a mandatory. So I think that's why we're seeing such big success with you guys.
Well, guys, thank you very much for joining me today on the topic. Some very interesting points. It'd be interesting to see where things go in the next few months.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for your time, Johnny, and we really do value your guys' partnership. Thank you.
No problem at all.
Johnny.
For more topics in our cybersecurity glossary series, visit our YouTube channel or Knowledge Hub.